Jessi Smiles is a content creator that you might remember from a video she made on Gabby Hanna about a month ago titled, Gabby Hanna Must Be Stopped, and in that video she talked about some very personal things about her and her former partner Curtis Lepore, where he allegedly raped her. Now this wasn't explained in detail in that video because the video was against Gabby Hanna, and while that situation was slightly relevant to that drama, it wasn't really fully relevant to it, so she didn't really talk about it that much. But it recently got talked about even more on Twitter when Curtis Lepore tweeted out his defense with the caption, "To all." In this tweet, he posts an image where he says, "To all, this statement is by no means an attempt to discredit or discard anyone's feelings, but merely to tell my side. For too long, there has been one narrative to a very complicated and unfortunate situation. It is important that I clear the air for myself, my family, my friends, and my fans. Sexual assault, abuse, and/or harassment is something that unfortunately plagues our society and should never be tolerated. It is quite literally one of the most, if not the most, degrading, disgusting, and violating acts one human being can do to another. Fortunately, we live in a time where there are many positive conversations taking place about a human being's right to choose what they do with their body. In 2013, I entered a very public relationship. We started dating. We cared for one another. We made Vine videos together. We were on the internet as a couple, and that was real life too. This was a real relationship that did involve consensual sex on many occasions. Our relationship continued over the next month. The week before the incident, my former partner was staying with me at my apartment while visiting from Miami, Florida. During that week, the conversation of the two of us waking each other up with sex came up on two separate occasions. It was stated that this would be a nice way to wake each other up by the both of us. A fellow creator and mutual friend of both of ours would later confirm to me that my former partner told him that these conversations took place. Later, this mutual friend would verify this with the district attorney who handled the case. The following week, we would break up, yet still spoke daily while she was in Los Angeles. Several days after the breakup, we were in contact as we would have been, and while she was filming a video for social media, she had injured herself and reached out to me shortly after. When I spoke with her, I immediately asked if she was okay and offered to take her to the hospital. She refused and stated she wanted to see me and asked me for her to pick her up, so I did. Upon picking her up, she ran to me enthusiastically and hugged me. Once in the car, she immediately proceeded to make physical, sexual advancement, of which I reciprocated. This took place on the drive back to my apartment. Once in the apartment, we spoke briefly, I went into the bathroom for several minutes, and she had laid down on the bed. Once I came out of the bathroom, I got into bed with her and made sexual advancements, and due to her reciprocated actions, I assumed she was laying there with her eyes closed waiting for me to join, but not asleep. Although there were physical reciprocated actions by the both of us, there was never any verbal consent. I thought this action was okay due to the conversations that had taken place the previous week, the history of frequent consensual sex that had taken place as recently as days before the incident, and the physical sexual advancements from the moment I picked her up and throughout the car ride back to my apartment. Almost immediately after I began, she opened her eyes. She jumped up and I did as well. Without any hesitation, she ran to the bathroom and stated that I had raped her. I immediately felt confused and mortified. I cared for this person deeply and would have never done anything intentionally to harm her. Shortly after the incident, I took her back to her friend's house and was extremely apologetic. That night I learned that regardless of any sexual history, relationship status, physical sexual advancements, or any previous conversations which gave consent, if explicit verbal consent is not provided prior to any sexual act by both parties, then no sexual activity should take place. 2 weeks after this incident, I received a phone call from her. I was unaware this call was being monitored and recorded by the police. I was told by her that she needed closure and needed to move on with her life, and she needed me to admit what I did was wrong. I was extremely conflicted at the time of this call and felt I was being manipulated into admitting guilt. She kept saying that I knew what I did, and please just admit it so she could move on. I eventually did admit what I did was wrong. I wanted more than anything for there to be closure, and for this to be done as I never wanted to hurt anyone. 1 week after this call, I was arrested and released on bail. Shortly after my arrest, I had to decide between going to trial and defending myself or to take a plea deal. In order to make an informed decision, I reached out to close mutual friends and discovered that my former partner was sharing intimate details of her relationship that would support my side of the story. Our mutual friends were all fellow creators and or people within the entertainment industry. These people did not want to be associated with this very sensitive situation publicly. So, with no one willing to testify in a trial, the recorded phone call, and seeing the pain being caused to everyone involved, I felt the best option was to accept the deal. 1 year later, after completing weekly therapy appointments and 24 hours of community service, my charge was reduced from felon to misdemeanor assault, and the case was closed. I think that it is worth noting that my former partner agreed to this plea deal for a lesser charge. My intention from this moment was to move on with my life, and hopefully everyone involved could do the same. I was legally not allowed to speak about this for 2 years after the case was closed. I began to get aggressively harassed and threatened online, daily. I was referred to as a rapist and often told to kill myself as jail was too good for me. I knew that I am a public figure, and with that comes high expectations. But I am a human being, and the predominant emotion I felt in response to this was anger. Unfortunately, this did not lead to the best public responses by me, and for that I am sorry. I thought that if I just continued to do what I love and keep moving forward, things would get better, and when the time was right, I would tell my side. As the narrative of the situation became more and more one-sided, I retreated, and when I could have said something, I chose to stay quiet as I was afraid to speak and or do anything. Sexual assault, abuse, or harassment is awful and disgusting. It should not be tolerated, but neither should one narrative in certain situations. I hope this statement can positively add to the conversation of everyone's right to choose what they do with their body. My passion is to create content, to aspire to inspire, and as long as I can create something that other people enjoy, I will continue to do that. Now, Curtis wasn't getting a ton of support for this tweet over on Twitter, but on his Instagram, where he has a much bigger following, he was getting a lot of support from fellow verified Instagram users, some of which include Vanessa Johnston, Darian Didon, Vito Glazers, Britter Essie, Amanda Cherney, Eljon Panzerita, the Alex Linux, Real Jason Mendez, Josh Pallerlin, I Am Lauren Crumpton, Miss Brooke, Olga Safari, Jamie Chowerin, Daniel Silva, Rosette Lerv, and Chad Temper. I apologize if I said any of those names wrong. The way Instagram shows usernames is all like bunched together, so I can't exactly tell where the gap is between the first name and the last name. And obviously I'm just not the best at pronouncing names in general. Either way, going back to Twitter, Keemstar responds to this by saying, "You should have fucking said this immediately. You let her call you a rapist over and over and over again for 5 fucking years and said absolutely fucking nothing. I got so much shit because I did not believe her story. You said nothing." And then of course, Keemstar received some tweets for making this more about him than anyone else. Jessi Smiles later responded to this directly by saying, "Curtis Lepore, the man who raped me, put out a statement nearly 6 years later about the night that it happened. This is my response. I know it's super long, and I'm sorry, but I had a lot to say. If you had just spoken your truth without lying about that night, there would have been no response from me to make. I'm not here to tell you you can't speak, but what I'm not going to do is to sit back and allow you to speak the lies you've convinced yourself of and belittle me again just like you did when everything became public. Here's the truth. I have never publicly talked about the specifics of what happened that night. Why you felt that was necessary to prove your innocence is bizarre, but since I remember it vividly, and there are actual witnesses to back my side up, allow me to rip off this band-aid and say what actually happened. From a person who has never changed her story, from a person who's fucking shaking because you felt it was appropriate to put me in this position where I'd have to respond, let me tell you people what really happened. Curtis and I dated. I broke up with him about a month after, and he didn't take it well. He was rocking back and forth and telling me to please not go, that he loved me. I left my stuff at his house, and had my manager come and get it because I was genuinely scared. I don't know why, but something made me feel like he would do something to himself or me. I told my mom and manager this that day. We did not speak daily after this, as he is stating. The only reason we became friends again is because he called my mom, who he barely knew, and would tell her how much he missed me, cry to her, just ridiculous shit. So to get him off her back, we became friends again. I knew it was way too soon, and I told him this, but we became friends again regardless. One day, I hit my head when I was vining, and started feeling dizzy. I tweeted about it, a lot of you remember. Curtis and I were broken up at the time, but he saw the tweets and became concerned. I was alone in LA, so he texted me and offered to come and get me from my friend's house. I said, no, I'm okay, really. He insisted, I refused. He replied, I'm coming over, Jessi, you are not okay, and I know your friend's address, since he had picked up a friend from there before. He even called my mom on the way to get me, to let her know he was going to check up on me. He picked me up. I was so loopy and dizzy from hitting my head, that he became concerned and spoke with the friend I had been staying with. She was out of town. I told her I wasn't doing well. This friend later offered to testify in court for me, but it wasn't needed since they had a confession. He knew I wasn't feeling well. On the way to his house, I asked him if he had bought the couch for his new house yet. He said no and asked why I was asking, and I said I wanted to sleep on it, so that he knew I was not interested in sleeping next to him. He told me, you shouldn't be sleeping anyway with a concussion. We got to his house. I was so tired. I made a beeline for his bed. He had a bunch of stuff on it, so I pushed it to the side and jumped on. I started closing my eyes, but when I did, I started feeling so dizzy. I told him, I feel so sick, and he was comforting me. Those were the last words I said to him, an exact quote, before I woke up to him having sex with me. Unprotected, unprovoked, full-on sex with a person he was supposed to be looking out for. A person who was asleep and sick. A person that didn't have a chance to say no. I have never, in my life, told Curtis Lepore that I wanted him to wake me up during sex. The only thing we ever spoke about it in regards to that subject was things I did with my ex that were all planned and consensual, and did not involve actual sex. How he takes that one story about my ex and interpreted it as something I wanted him to do to me is truly sickening. I'm not surprised though. Him and his lawyer tried to justify what he did by showing the court that I've talked to him about sexual things in the past online, as if that's a free invitation to do as you wish with my body. Curtis, I did not pressure you on that recorded phone call with the police. I said, I need closure. You need to tell me what you did to me. Did you know I was asleep? You said, yes. I asked, did you take my clothes off while I was asleep? You said, yes. I asked, did you know that you raped me? And you said, yes. What innocent man on one single 10-minute phone call can be pressured into saying they raped someone? Were you also pressured into confessing what you did to Alex James? Was your mom pressured into telling Rolling Stones that what you did was lovingly wake me up? P.S. I didn't agree to a plea deal. I had no control since it was the state of California against you, not me against you. Surprised you don't know that. I don't know what you have told yourself over the years to justify what you did, but don't you dare, after what you did, put false shit out about that night, because that night is the reason I still can't have sex when I'm feeling tired, why I distrust men and cried about sex for years. So no, you do not get to just decide what happened. The truth has consequences, and the life I have endured after that night is proof of what the truth was. I am disgusted at how you justify it all in your head. I'm disgusted that you don't see that night for what it was. I'm disgusted that I have to relive this publicly again. I'm so fucking disgusted. And I'm so fucking tired. Now, in comparison to Curtis, Jessi had a much more positive reception to her statement. An example of this is a reply from T-Spill who says, "We all stand with you. I'm so sorry you have to keep reliving this trauma. You are extremely strong." Kathleen Light says, "I'm so proud of you, Jessi. You are so fucking brave and strong. And I love you. I hate that you have to deal with this time and time again. You were such an inspiration to so many women out there." Ginger Weston says, "In case anyone was wondering, this is the exact story. Word for word, Jessi bawled her eyes out while telling me in 2014. Her story hasn't changed, because it's the truth." Alex James says, "This man really forgot he told me that you were asleep." Keemstar comments on this entire situation by saying, "I hate cases of rape. In most cases, only 2 people in the world actually know what happened. Everyone else has to guess. The Jessi Smiles and Curtis story is so hard to believe because they were both boyfriend and girlfriend. But the truth is, none of us actually know what happened." Nicholas Diorio then responds, "I'm Alex. I need to tell you what is happening right now." And then Keemstar replies with 3 skull emojis. Jessi Smiles responds to Keemstar by saying, "You've handled this situation with such poor taste. You are right. You don't know what happened. But you sure felt like you did all these years when you consistently called me a liar and mocked my accusations. Sorry you hate all these rape cases, by the way. Must be hard on you." Showing some tweets that Keemstar made back in 2014 where Keem said, "Do you remember when Jessi Smiles accused Curtis Lepore of rape? Guess what charges dropped? Same thing will happen with Sam Pepper. Watch. Jessi smiles in response to Keem by saying, charges were never dropped, but you spelled guess wrong, so I assume we can't expect too much from you. Keem then responds, sorry Jessi smiles, Twitter only has 140 spots. Please don't accuse me of rape. And for those who would say Keem is lying in that instance, well, Twitter did have 140 characters back when this tweet was made. Now it has been increased to 280. Thank God. Keemstar makes full use of that Twitter update in his next response to Jessi that says, you have me blocked, but you respond to my fucking tweets. You are such a goddamn weirdo, Jessi smiles. Everyone in this industry tells me what a fucking liar you are. So again, sorry I don't believe that your boyfriend raped you, but like I said, only you and him know the truth. Also, you, Jessi smiles, and Curtis put out statements recently on what happened. Is there any way for the public to hear the recorded call with Curtis? You both have different versions of how that call went down. I want to know if he confessed about consent or if he actually raped. Jessi responds with, oh, I see. I was supposed to sit down and have a convo of the facts with a man who ridiculed me online and called me a liar before he knew a single fact about this case. When will you learn I don't care if you don't believe me? I care that you use your platform to mock rape allegations. Also, I could care less about what ex-Viners that met me for 5 minutes in 2014 told you about me, lol. You can always count on Keemstar, always coming through with those super reputable sources. Jen Dent then responds to Keemstar by saying, hey, State of California who has heard the tape and made a decision in the courts as what to come of this case. Rewind! Keemstar wants to hear the call. Tell them to hold the file. This is important, boy. If you don't... Jessi then responds to this by saying, the confession was recorded by the Miami-Dade police and is property of the district attorney of the state of California. Does he think I have an MP3 file saved in my iTunes library? Or that I'd give it to him of all people? Laughing my ass off, the fuck? Keemstar then responds to this by saying, I didn't know if you had a copy or not, but if there's any way to get a copy, you should. I'm confused why the district attorney would plead down this felon rape case with no jail time if he had Curtis recorded admitting rape. Seems dodgy as fuck. I'm going to talk to my legal team in the morning and see if there's a way that we can get the audio of the recorded confession. Maybe a Freedom of Information Act? I want proof that he's guilty or innocent, and that's probably impossible. But maybe I can prove that one of them is lying. Orflea responds to Keemstar by saying, so the charges were dropped or the guy made a plea deal? Keemstar then replies, both actually. Someone responds to Keemstar by saying, why don't you back the fuck up and sit the fuck down? She was raped. She said she was raped. He was convicted. You didn't need to believe her or have an opinion on it. Keemstar then responds to this by saying, convicted of what rape? No, he was not. Someone else says to Keemstar, welcome to the world of why don't women report rapes? Men like you are why. Keem then responds, please shut the fuck up. All you people do is manipulate instead of having actual conversations about facts. You are all scum. Shelby responds to Keemstar by saying, he was charged and convicted of something. The boy took therapy, which most likely means he took sexual assault classes, and did community service for a year. But he did nothing wrong? Okay, go the fuck off. Keemstar responds, something. Lol, he did that therapy not on his own will. He did it as part of a plea argument that avoided him of felony charges. Dummy. Gent Den herself responds to Jessi's reply to her by saying, Jessica, this is an emergency. Keemstar wants to hear it. Jessi then responds, actually, now that I think about it, I have a, in case Keemstar asks, folder on my desktop. It might be in there. Keemstar then responds, that's a good folder to have. And then Gent Den responds to him by saying, that's where I keep the fucks that the state of California gives for your opinion. Keemstar then responds, Jen, I've always thought of you as insane. Summer Garcia responds to Keemstar by saying, hi Keemstar, as a victim of rape only last year at the age of 14, these kinds of tweets could be very triggering for your audience. I understand you were trying to defend yourself, but it is seriously triggering to some of us. Love your work though. Keem then responds, that's horrible. Sorry this happened to you. I won't be tweeting about it anymore tonight. Chelsea then says, weird how you aren't asking for evidence, Keemstar. Keem then replies, she didn't accuse anyone. We'll leave the goddamn girl alone, psycho. And then Keem makes a final tweet on the situation that says, deleting all my tweets on this Jessi and Curtis thing in 15 minutes. Want my timeline clear of this heavy shit. I just don't want them manipulating it saying that I'm deleting it because I'm wrong or something like that. So, for your information. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't actually able to screen cap these deleted tweets, but I did end up already showing you them because they were provided to me by Josh Pescator, who also runs a news channel alongside John Swan, which is a very, very good source of news. I highly recommend checking out their channel. But yes, they did provide me with these deleted screenshots, so I do want to thank them specifically, because this video wouldn't be nearly as accurate without Josh Pescator's help. As for my opinion on the situation, I am going to stay completely neutral. Rape is a very serious thing, whether it be the false allegation of a rape, or the actual rape that might have actually happened. And to say something one way or the other would be extremely unfair to whoever is innocent. So I'm gonna stay pretty much neutral, but all I can say is that if the recorded call with Curtis does come out, we will know who definitively is the liar out of the two of them, because they did make two separate statements on how that call went down. Either way, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this in the comment section below. Definitely some heavy stuff. If you want to see more videos like this, and hopefully more lighthearted ones in the future as well, be sure to subscribe with notifications on, as I upload very frequently. Also follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with even more stuff. Thank you so much to my channel members for supporting the channel, and with all that being said, have a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next video.